First up is Dr. Liangzi Zhang. Dr. Zhang is a research scientist at the Food Databanks National Capability, again at the Quadram Institute. Dr. Zhang has a background in dietary assessment methodology and focuses on simplification of existing methodology and development of new technologies in national food consumption surveys. So I'll hand over.
Good morning, everyone. Very happy to be here and to see so many people from different parts of the world, and very looking forward to discuss with you later in the comment session. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about my project in Food Databanks, which is a group that hosts the McCann's and Whittleson's The Composition of Foods in the UK dataset. And this data is important in informing current and emerging nutritional needs in the UK and globally, and is a foundation for food labeling and health claims. And it supports nutrition and health monitoring in both small and large scale. And also it helps research to unveil the diet and disease relationships. This data is used across multiple fields, both nationally and internationally, including the area of dietetics, food technology, biomedical research, and food policy making. One of the main aims of our group is to understand the patterns and trends in food composition and food consumption. The topic I'm going to present today is specifically the nutrient content in vegan diet. We compare it with the nutrient content in non-vegan diet, and we will also say something about the nutritional and health implications in the UK. As you may have heard from different sources already, that eating less meat and more plants is good for both health and the environment. And a report published in The Lancet in 2019 concluded that a dietary shift towards plant foods away from animal foods is vital for promoting the health of our planet. And the definition of plant-based diet is that the diet is based on foods that come from plants with few or no ingredients that come from animals. This includes vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, seeds, and fruits. So before jumping into the research topic, I would like to know your opinions about eating a plant-based diet. So please comment either in Discord or YouTube comments section regarding to this question. What would be your reasons to follow a plant-based diet, if applicable? So it can be really general, such as the environment or animal welfare or health, or it can be really detailed, such as it makes my skin look better. I will leave you 1 minute maybe to type your answer, and I would like to ask the help from Rebecca to summarize the answers.
Amy has said that she does it for environmental reasons.
Yeah.
Come on, everybody, don't be shy, do comment. I think on a personal note, I might consider a vegetarian diet due to my weight, looking to increase my healthy nutritional intake.
Yeah, so it's more a health perspective.
Yeah, we have another comment on Discord, health and sustainability reasons.
So both health and environment.
David on YouTube says reducing the carbon impact of my diet, and Saima says personal preference and more recently awareness around environmental. Molly says ethical and she just wants to eat more healthy plant foods. Catherine says health, avoiding chemical additives in meats, animal rights and environmental reasons. And back on Discord, Lisa says, I believe if you buy local produce, this outweighs plant-based. Greta says for the environment. Alison says polyphenols.
Oh.
So we're getting a few really good answers there. Thank you. And Charlotte has said she's been eating significantly more plant-based, mainly because she wanted to experiment cooking-wise, but also environmental. And yeah, health. Molly went veggie in 2016 to avoid the smell of cooked meat in her studio flat.
Okay.
And Neve started to consciously make plant-based dietary choices for the environment and sustainability. However, her degree now highlights the importance and benefits for health.
Okay.
Thank you ever so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. It seems that the environment and health are the major reasons for the audience to follow a plant-based diet, if they will. So let me show you a finding from Euromonitor 2021 report that about 40% of the population follow plant-based diet due to animal welfare and environmental reasons, and about 37% of the population choose a plant-based diet for it could potentially improve their health. So this presentation will be focused mainly on the health aspect. And first, we need to distinguish the different types of plant-based diet. So here is a summary of 3 main types of plant-based diet. The plant-based diet itself is the least strict version comparing to vegan and vegetarian. So they don't completely cut off animal products, but just to reduce the intake amount. Vegan is the most strict type that doesn't include all animal produced foods. And vegetarian eats eggs and dairy for some of them, depending on what specific type of vegetarian they are. So in this study, we focus on the most strict type of plant-based diet, which is the vegan diet, that contains 100% of plant-based foods, including both whole foods and processed foods. In the UK, it was known that 1 in 8 people is vegan or vegetarian, and the vegan population has quadrupled for the past 4 years and is still growing fast. And from previous studies, it was shown that vegan diet has beneficial effects in reducing the risk of chronic diseases and also improving the gut microbiome profile because of the higher amount of protein, less saturated fat, and animal protein in vegan diets. Still, there are concerns that vegan products on the market are ultra-processed with higher amount of sugar and fats, and without careful planning, vegan diet might lead to deficiencies in certain nutrients. And this has started the planning of this project. So in this study, we compared the nutrient composition of vegan products, vegan recipes, and vegan meal plans to the non-vegan alternatives. And the nutrients for these recipes and meal plans were calculated based on the composition of foods integrated data sets that our group has developed. It contains more than 3,000 foods and over 200 nutrient values for each product or foods. And it can be accessed either online or can be downloaded. So here is another question for you. Which country do you think leads the plant-based meat sector in terms of sales value? Please choose from the countries listed here and answer it in Discord or YouTube.
Liangzi, that's a really interesting question. So we're talking about the plant-based meat alternatives, and
yes.
I have to be honest with you, I don't have a clue. So come on, everybody who's watching live, please let me know what you think. So Amy has suggested Germany. Claire says the UK. Any more suggestions? Catherine says the UK. Sarah says UK. Mariana says Germany. Okay, so we've got two definite trends going on here.
Yeah.
It's like doing a pub quiz on food. Molly says UK. Salam says Denmark.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyone else for Denmark? Clem says the Netherlands.
Netherlands.
Alison says Netherlands. Molly says maybe Germany. This is good. Thank you ever so much, guys. This is wonderful. Any last suggestions? Aaron says Netherlands.
Netherlands.
Oh, and Charlotte, Netherlands.
Oh, Netherlands. So Germany and Netherlands has the highest vote, and then UK, I think. And then some people chose Denmark. Yeah, Denmark. Then I will show you the correct answer. From the Nielsen Market Track report, UK ranks the highest in the plant-based meat alternatives compared to other European countries, but Germany and Netherlands also has really high sales value in terms of these vegan products. And when we look at the detailed distinction between specific types of plant-based meat products, textured vegetable protein, also called soy meat, and tofu, which are represented by the green and orange bar, have been the most popular within the vegan diets across the world for decades. And altogether, these two hold approximately 80% of the market. Microprotein from the brand corn, along with seitan, tempeh, and other soy products, account for the remaining 20% of the industry. And others, including the less commonly consumed sources, including algae, insects, and cultured meat. Therefore, as we can see, that the market of plant-based products is without questioning increasing, and it is therefore important to understand their nutritional value compared to meat alternatives. So now coming back to our project, for the product analysis, we collected 10 popular vegan products in the UK market from the category of fish, chicken, beef, sausage, cheese, milk, and ready meal. And we got their nutrient information from the nutritional label of each product. And we compare the nutrients to the non-vegan alternatives, which we collected the nutrients from the composition of foods data set. So as a result, in terms of energy comparison, only sausage group has shown a significant higher energy content in non-vegan products, meat products, compared to the vegan products. And all the other categories shows no significant difference in terms of energy content. And in terms of macronutrients, we found that fiber has a significantly higher content in vegan products compared to non-vegan products in all categories of products. And we all know that the dietary fiber is really important in human health in terms of modulating our bowel movements, help control blood sugars, and control weight gain. There are different types of fiber, soluble fiber, which can dissolve in water to form a gel-like material and can be found in fruits and oats. Resistant starch is one type of soluble fiber that is highly fermentable in the gut and could produce a beneficial metabolites called short-chain fatty acids. Insoluble fiber promotes the movement of material going through the digestive system, and it benefits to those who struggle with constipation or irregular bowel movements. And the last type is called prebiotics. They are a type of carbohydrates that only our gut bacteria can feed upon, and which promotes the growth of beneficial microorganisms. As we said earlier, the increased intake of dietary fiber could increase short-chain fatty acids. They are signaling molecules to maintain an interaction between diet, host, and intestinal bacteria, and they also has anti-inflammatory and anti-carcinogenic properties. Also, it increases the abundance of bifidobacterium, which is a butyrate-producing genus known to play a protective role in human gut barrier and can provide defense against pathogens and diseases. And it could decrease pro-inflammatory cytokine production, concentrations of serum triglycerides, total cholesterol, and LDL cholesterol. The current recommendations for fiber intake in the UK is 30 grams per day. However, the current population only has 18 grams per day, according to the National Diet and Nutrition Surveys. So there is a large room for improvement in dietary fiber intake. And when we look at other macronutrients, protein was found to be significantly higher in meat products in almost all categories except the beef category. And protein is an essential macronutrient for growth and development of human body. It helps repair and build tissues and control many metabolic functions. The average daily recommended intake of protein is 50 grams per day in the UK. And however, there is a trend of excessive protein consumption across the world, especially in developed countries. We could see that the red section, which represents animal-based protein, is higher than the green section, which is the plant-based protein. The consumption of animal protein and plant-based protein influence the gut microbiome in different ways. Diets high in animal protein are usually high in saturated fat and poses less carbohydrates, and it increases pathogenic bacteria and contributing to pathogenesis in IBD. And it decreases beneficial bacteria and butyrate-producing bacteria, which will lead to a pro-inflammatory state and increase the risk of colorectal cancer. On the other hand, plant-based proteins increases beneficial bifidobacterium and lactobacillus. It reduces pathogenic bacteria and have been associated with lower mortality than animal-derived proteins. Amino acids are often referred to as the building blocks of protein. They are categorized as essential, conditionally essential, and non-essential. Essential amino acids are the ones that cannot be made by the body, so we must get those essential amino acids from food. And a complete protein contains an adequate proportion of each of the 9 essential amino acids. And the nutritional quality of a protein is defined by its content of essential amino acids that match the standards agreeing to the patterns required by the human body. Also, the digestibility and bioavailability contribute to the overall quality of protein. A scoring system called digestible indispensable amino acid score indicates the quality of the protein and categorize protein sources based on the score. And we could see that the green area are the proteins that receives higher score, which are mostly from animal sources. and plant-based protein mostly would have a lower score compared to animal sources. So it was suggested that consuming 50 grams of protein may not be enough if the protein sources are of poor quality. A study on 100 Polish children following either a plant-based or omnivorous diet identified that the vegan children have a healthier cardiovascular risk profile when compared to omnivores. However, these children were on average 3 centimeters shorter and had weaker bones than omnivores due to deficiency in protein intake. Other than the completeness of amino acids, the digestibility and bioavailability in protein are often affected by several factors, such as protein chemical structure, processing steps, and anti-nutritional factors, including the protease inhibitors, phytase, polyphenols, and fibers, etc. And however, these anti-nutritional factors have beneficial impact to health, such as they are antioxidant, they have anti-inflammatory characteristics, anti-diabetic, and anti-cancer. So therefore, to ensure the population have an adequate amount of protein intake while reducing the animal protein intake, it is recommended that people should increase the overall daily protein intake and combine multiple sources of proteins. Some vegan manufacturers now aim to combine multiple plant protein to increase the amino acid compositions, but this may not be the priority for majority of the food producers because the nutritional labels of food products don't include amino acid composition. So their major focus now is still at the appearance, texture, flavor, and mouthfeel of the products. Now we are doing a study on comparison between the amino acid composition in beef products versus the amino acids in the vegan beef products. And now this project is in the phase of data analysis, and hopefully we will deliver some useful insights for the amino acid content in vegan beef products. And in terms of nutrient supplementation in the food products that we collected, we only find that cheese and milk categories has nutrient supplementation, and all the other food categories doesn't have any supplementation in their products. And across all the supplemented nutrients, calcium was found to be most commonly supplemented in either categories, while the vitamin B12 is only commonly supplemented in cheese products, and it's not really so common in milk products. And all the other nutrients were not commonly supplemented in either category. Now, moving on to meal analysis, we picked 10 popular non-vegan dishes from the BBC Good Food website, and the nutrient content for these non-vegan dishes were shown on the website already, and we compare these nutrients to the vegan versions of these dishes, where their nutrients were calculated with the COVID food composition dataset. And we found that in general, vegan dishes represented in orange area contains more carbohydrates, sugar, and fiber, whereas non-vegan dishes contain more protein, fats, and saturated fat. As an extension of the meal recipe analysis, we conducted a meal plan analysis where we collected 7-day meal plans from the BBC Good Food for both vegan and non-vegan population. And we extracted the ingredients from those meal plans and linked them to the nutrient data and averaged the nutrient intake per day for each diet. And similar to the previous product analysis, protein was found to be significantly higher in non-vegan diets. And the recommended intake specifically for males and females are 55.5 grams per day and 45 grams per day. And the protein content in both diets are above this recommended intake. However, the amount in non-vegan diets is double the size of the recommended intake. As for saturated fat, is also significantly higher in non-vegan diets than vegan. And it was recommended that adults should eat less than 31 grams per day for males and 24 grams per day for females. And the saturated fat content in both diets fell within this recommended range. For vitamins, non-vegan diet has significantly higher amount of vitamin B group, vitamin D, and retinol. And specifically for vitamin B12, the amount in vegan diet is way lower than the non-vegan diet and also lower than recommended nutrient intake, which can be problematic. However, since this analysis doesn't include products that are potentially supplemented with vitamin B12, such as breakfast cereals or nutritional yeasts that some vegan population would consume, the amount of estimated B12 content in this analysis might be an underestimation of the realistic situation. Vitamin B12, also known as cobalamin, is not found in plants and made only by microorganisms, and it's important for the synthesis of blood cells and brain nerve tissue. And a deficiency in vitamin B12 among vegans and vegetarians is commonly observed and reported. And the signs and symptoms of vitamin B12, including cognitive changes, loss of sensation, muscle weakness, or loss of mental and physical drive. And adequate vitamin B12 status is especially important for women preconceptionally and during pregnancy in the neuromyelination, brain and cognitive development, the growth of the fetus, and the impact may be irreversible. The recommended intake in UK is 1.5 micrograms per day for both average adults and pregnant and lactating women. However, in the US, the recommendation is much higher, and it's even higher in pregnant and lactating women. Therefore, the vitamin B12 consumed through pure vegan diet should be carefully planned with supplemented food products, or take a daily supplement is also recommended. It was found that vitamin B12 supplementation doesn't change the composition of gut microbiota in murine model, whereas adverse impact on IBD was found. More research is needed to uncover the long-term impact of vitamin B12 supplementation. For the minerals, the vegan diet has significantly lower amount of nitrogen, selenium, and iodine. Both in vegan diet, the selenium and iodine content were much lower than the recommended nutrient intake. And for non-vegan diet, both nutrients fell within the recommended range. Iodine is essential in thyroid hormones, and it could regulate many important biochemical reactions, including protein synthesis, enzymatic activity, and are a critical determinant of metabolic activity. They are also required for skeletal and central nervous system development in the fetuses and infants, and can be important in immune function too. And they are most commonly found in seafood or seaweed and dairy products. Selenium play critical roles in reproduction, thyroid hormone metabolism, DNA synthesis, and protection from oxidative damage and infection. Experiments on mice show that selenium can increase the microbial diversity in the gut, and dietary and supplementary selenium were found to be positively correlated with beneficial bifidobacterium and promote its growth in humans. When we look at the intake of these two nutrients at population level, all age and sex group, except for women at childbearing age, met adequate iodine status. However, there is a downward trend in iodine intake over time by 5%. And as for selenium, there is no obvious downward trend, but the overall population intake is only about 60 to 70% of the recommended intake level. We also compared the iron content in vegan and meat dishes. We calculated the iron bioavailability and the final potential iron absorption for each diet. The bioavailability was calculated based on the amount of inhibit and enhance factors of iron absorption found in this publication listed, and including the content of phytates, ascorbic acids, polyphenols, calciums in the dishes, and these factors were incorporated into an algorithm for automatic calculation of the iron bioavailability. In terms of the iron content in both diets, the blue bar represents the iron content in vegan diet, and the red bar represents the content in meat dishes. And we could see that some of the vegan dishes have higher iron content than meat dishes. However, when we look at the bioavailability level calculated with the calculator, that most of the meat dishes have higher iron bioavailability than the vegan dishes. And this has resulted a final potential absorption of iron in the human body, which is represented by the gray line. And this has illustrated that instead of iron content, iron bioavailability is the key factor in determining the final absorption of iron. When we look at the population intake, that it has been reduced by 5% overall during the past 20 years, and possibly due to decreased meat consumption in the population. And still, the iron deficiency is the most common nutrient deficiency in the world. And it is important to, in terms of energy metabolism, cognitive function, formation of red blood cells and hemoglobin, oxygen transport in the body, and reduction of tiredness and fatigue. Therefore, getting enough iron from plant source is not impossible. Here are some recommendations to increase iron absorption from plant-based foods, such as by adding vitamin C, citric acid, and other organic acids to the meal. Reduce phytates by soaking whole grains and beans before cooking. Fermenting and sprouting of some vegetables to reduce the phytate content. Using iron-containing cookware such as a cast iron pan, or avoid tea or coffee intake 1 hour or after a meal, 1 hour before or after a meal. So in general, this study provides an overview of the nutrient profile of vegan products, vegan dishes, and vegan meal plans. A well-planned vegan diet contains enough amount of protein, higher amount of fiber, and less saturated fat compared to non-vegan diet. However, there is a risk of deficiency in vitamin B12, selenium, iodine, and iron in vegan diet, and supplementation might be required. And also we found that among the vegan products in the UK, the key limiting nutrients are not commonly supplemented in all vegan products. And finally, I would like to thank my supervisors, Paul and Maria, and my colleague Maya, and 3 students, Anastasia, Ellie, and Katie, for contributing to this project. And thank you very much. And any questions?
Thank you, Liangzi. That was really interesting. So if anyone on our live audience has any questions, please post them now, but I'll get started with a few thoughts of my own. So I think most non-experts, myself included, would automatically think of vegetarian and vegan diets as being more healthy. But I'd really like to know your opinion on heavily processed vegetarian and vegan foods. So does that make these products perhaps as unhealthy as some meat alternatives? What are your thoughts, please?
Yeah, I think in general, plant-based foods, when they are from unprocessed sources like whole vegetable or fruits or whole grains, they contain higher fiber and less saturated fat. But when we heavily process these ingredients, we tend to, if people tend to mimic the taste of meat, they would add more ingredients like salt or sugar or fat to improve their mouthfeel of the product. And also the process of processing might reduce the content of fiber and also the protein structure of the product. So by heavily processing the vegetable sources, it could reduce the beneficial components within the whole vegetable. So it was still recommended to prepare dishes if from plant-based, it's better to use the whole ingredients rather than use processed ingredients.
That's definitely something for most of us to keep an eye out for when shopping then. Thank you. Okay, I have some questions on YouTube. So is a vegan diet sufficient in essential fatty acids?
Essential fatty acids. Oh, yeah, I guess for some, for like omega-3, it might be a bit difficult because the plant-based ingredients contains a lot of LAL, which can be to some extent to be converted to DHA and EPA in the body, but the conversion might be limited compared to compared to fatty acids from fish. So yeah, but there are suggestions that if you don't eat fish and you would like to get enough DHA and EPA, you could use algae sourced supplementation to make sure that you take enough amount of amino acids. But there are limited evidence on the long-term use of those supplements. So it's still, we can't give a definite answer to that question.
Interesting thought to consider later on. Neve on Discord asks, why does soaking whole grains and beans reduce the phytates? Sorry, phytates?
Phytates. I'm not really sure, but from my own experience, it maybe the phytate content would get into the water and before cooking it, but I'm not really sure about that question.
It's good. Maybe someone on Discord could answer.
Yeah.
Amy asks that she thinks that the food industry still has a way to go in keeping up with the trend towards vegan and plant-based products. She's surprised to see so little fortified foods, even milk and cheese with iodine and selenium. And she wants to know, is this due to cost and product reformulation challenges? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think definitely. And I recently know that the fact of vitamin B12 supplementation in foods can be really costly, and also it might require more research of supplementing all these nutrients into their products. And people nowadays, the general public, might not be so concerned about supplementation in food products because they might already have a separate dietary supplement taking separately. So I think that's not the main concerns for the food producers nowadays.
Sophie's asked, do you think food-based dietary guidelines would ever move towards more of a plant-based model in the future?
Yeah, I think we can already see a trend of dietary guidelines in different countries have developed over the years, and they have more recommendations in concentrating people's attention on increase plant-based foods rather than the meat consumption. But now the general recommendation is still taking less meat than vegetables, which are basically quite similar to what plant-based diet is. So I guess with more evidence coming, there is a trend for the governmental dietary recommendations to move towards plant-based diet.
I've got a practical question. In your slides, you mentioned testing B12 supplements. Just out of curiosity's sake, was that injections, pill-based, or how did you measure that?
I think I meant the B12 supplements in food products.
Okay. So it's not standalone, but the product's already incorporated.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. One other quick question. If you had unlimited budget and there were no things that were going to stop you, is there something that you'd like to do next, something you'd like to look into? Where do you think that nutrition research, when it comes to vegetarian, vegan diets and nutrition, could go?
I think because our limited resource right now, we could only focus on limited food products, vegan products. So if we have unlimited resource and time and expertise, we could expand our sample by including all the available vegan products in the market, which we have recently gained access to. So it's a really exciting direction to move to examine the nutritional and ingredients of all those available vegan products on the market and give a more sounding or more valid analytical results from those products.
That sounds fantastic. Will you be sharing any PDFs for your slides or any links so that people can follow up on articles that you mentioned during your talk?
Yeah, of course.
Wonderful. And would it be possible for you to pop onto Discord in case anyone has any questions just after your session?
Yeah, happy to.
Okay.